Good. So we are live. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much if you are joining us on the replay here. This is happening every Wednesday at 4 p.m., and this is BST, so UK time. My name is Christine Yogaberry. I'm a yoga teacher, and I specialize in yoga for scoliosis. So if you have scoliosis or if you know someone with scoliosis, then you are in the right place, even though today we're going to talk about posture in general. So pretty much everyone can benefit from this talk, and I'm so excited. Today I'm being joined by Celest Pereira, and she is a yoga teacher as well. She's a trained physio, and she calls herself an anatomy geek. So yes, there's a lot of knowledge here to share. So see if we can get her on. There she is. Hi, Celeste.
Hi, everyone.
Good. So yes, yay, it's all working. So I've got the chat is up. I'm getting really excited about this because last week it was all a bit pants, unfortunately. So it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. But we kind of have to improvise with these things, isn't it? We go with the flow, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll find a different way of doing this. So how are you, Celeste? Where are you at the moment? I put down London, UK.
Yeah, that's where I am. I'm in Greenwich. I'm looking out my windows at the river, and it's very strange weather. It's kind of like sometimes sunny, sometimes a bit rainy. So yeah, it kind of goes up and down.
Yeah, yes, we just had masses of rain all of the sudden. So yeah, it's a little bit kind of Aprilish weather, isn't it, at the moment? It changes all the time.
Yeah,
Good.
it's a little bit funny. Yeah, so good to be here, babe. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
just
thank
to give you guys a bit of context who are watching, I interviewed Christine on my Instagram. And it was so amazing talking to her about scoliosis and kind of just educating my people a little bit more about how to support people with scoliosis. And that's how we became friends.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we can all learn from each other. We all have our kind of specialities. We all have our different interests, obviously, and it's just so great to be able to share knowledge this way, isn't it? I mean, it's fabulous what the internet can do, really.
It really is so amazing. Yeah. So I'm so grateful to be here with all of you guys.
Good. So yes, if you are joining us live, and I can see already Tatiana is here. She's saying good morning from Canada.
Morning.
Rora is here as well. So come and say hello. Let us know if you can hear us all right. I'm assuming you can, because otherwise you would have complained already. And let us know where you are in the world. If you've got any questions for us, obviously. And Celeste, why don't we start with kind of, if you tell us a little bit more about who's Celeste? What do you do, and why do you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I am a yoga teacher that was trained as a physio. I also did dance since I was little. And what I found was I was all geared up to go and become a physio. But when I got back from traveling, there was a bottleneck. There were a load of graduates coming in from overseas, graduates coming out of university, and loads of physios coming in from overseas. So there wasn't enough jobs. And thankfully there wasn't, because I would have definitely taken a physio job and I'd be working as a full-time physio now, and there would be no yoga in the picture. But actually I decided to try and earn a little bit of extra money, somehow keeping head above water because there was no jobs. And I decided, you know what, I've done my teacher training, I'll teach a few classes on the side. And before you knew it, I ended up taking off as a yoga teacher. I'm now teaching a lot. And I've kind of developed my business a bit more to go online. I want to reach more people with my message. And it really is just learning what I learned at university, and through all the clinical papers I've read, and through all the far more clever people than me that I interview. And I've picked up so much along the way. And it's really made me want to adapt how we do yoga. Because I feel like, you know, that actually goes for most sports. I feel like every single sport is great for lots of reasons, but it's not complete. And I feel personally that if people, because there's this real culture in yoga that, oh, it's like bad if you don't practice every day, and it's bad if you do any other forms of training. And I feel like that's caused so many injuries and so much damage. And so where I come from is actually trying to look at how our bodies have evolved since they, were evolved through being out in nature, and what do we need to do to kind of allow that evolution to be expressed in our modern life, which is obviously very far removed from nature. So that's the perspective I come from. Functional training. How can we give our body a bit more of a holistic experience, and maybe what some of the impacts on our body are because we don't have that holistic experience.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I obviously, so my background is more yoga, and then kind of I got more into the kind of physio and that sort of side. So it's kind of the other way around. And sometimes in the yoga world, you can kind of get into this thing of yoga is the solution to everything. And this thinking of, oh, you don't need anything else, you can basically fix everything with yoga, and it's simply not true. So yeah, sometimes you need a little bit of a widen your horizon a little bit more, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, just a few of those gaps that I try and highlight to people is we are very quad dominant because of the lunges and the goddess poses and the warriors. The quads are taking a lot more load. So they're developing through load. The hamstrings, on the other hand, they've evolved to lift up heavy things, to pick up children and water and carcasses and building materials. And what they're not getting is that load daily, because we don't need to lift anything anymore. Mm-hmm. And so then we go to yoga because they're tight, because we've been sitting a lot. And then what happens is the yoga teacher goes, oh, you're tight. I know the solution, stretching. But if we actually take the person who's complaining of being tight and we ask them, what did you do in your day? And they tell you sitting, those muscles are not tight. Those muscles are short, but they're very weak. And so the solution is taking muscles that are short and weak and now making them long and weak, which is even more unstable and even more unhealthy. And that's where all these unnecessary problems start creeping in.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I recently, fairly recently, had a problem with hamstring attachments. At least that was the diagnosis. I think there were
the yoga butt, it's called.
The yoga butt, yes, but only on one side. So I feel like there's also a bit of a rotation problem going on, obviously, with my lumbar scoliosis. But that was the first thing that the physio said to me, was like, well, first of all, maybe less downward dogs and do a little bit more strengthening. And she gave me some
training,
she gave me some things with resistance band and stuff like this, which before I was like, I don't do this type of thing, anything with weights. Like I don't like going to the gym or anything. I'm fine doing it at home, but I had a bit of a resistance to it. But I've just seen the benefits. It just makes such a big difference, especially when you get older.
Yeah, you have to do it. You can't get away from it, guys. Everyone's like, oh, I hate the gym. I'm like, it doesn't matter if you hate it or not. Your body has evolved to lift things up. Yeah. If you're lifting your iPhone every day, it's not enough. You can tell I'm really triggered by this topic. I'm like, so yeah, sorry about the rant, but it's just because I just desperately want people to understand, if you want a healthy body, the best thing you can do is ask yourself, what would my body be doing if I had nothing but my bare hands to survive in nature? Would I be sitting on my butt as often as I am? Would I be climbing up hills more frequently? What would that do to my posterior chain? What would I lift in a day? How much movement would there be in a day versus static body positions? What kind of surface would I sleep on? And straight away, we're starting to realize that actually what humans at the moment are going through are diseases of comfort. We are unwell because we are too comfortable. We're always in a warm bath and on a soft bed and a nice cushioned sofa. And we put on our beautiful, pointy shoes because they look nice. But we're not thinking logically about where we've come from as bodies. And so this is my big passion, to kind of break the culture of I get it. You know, if you don't like the gym, you're going to have to find another way around that. You're going to have to lift something up because unfortunately, that's what your
Exactly.
hamstrings want to do.
Yes, exactly. And that's it. There is not just one solution, there's plenty of other things that you can do. Like I've recently started skipping with my daughter, because
Right.
again, it's something different. We don't get the high impact stuff, obviously, in yoga.
Mm.
And I was saying I'm into the whole fascia network and all of that at the moment, and Tom Myers and all his theories. And he was like, you need bounce. You
Yeah,
need,
because that actually stimulates your collagen production.
mm,
So again, I mean, this is the thing. I think if we were contrasting life to nature to now, we'd realize there's variety. And that variety would create adaptation. And there's a thing called specific adaptation to imposed demands. It's called the SAID principle. Whatever you do more of, you're going to get better of. You are evolution happening every single second of every single day. Now, if you start skipping and you've got those rebounding actions going through your tissues, your body goes, oh my God, she's going to injure herself if we don't get more collagen laid down. Quickly send in the collagen. And the collagen runs in and starts building more collagen and starts getting that tensile strength in your fascial chains. But until you've actually put that demand on your body, that fascia, that's never going to happen.
yes, yeah, exactly. Let me just have a quick look at the chat to see who's here. So Ala says, "Good afternoon from Cairo, Egypt."
Hello.
Katie is here. Too much heaviness in my back. Can't stand for long. I have mild scoliosis. She's from India.
She's not lifting, I can guarantee it. I guess her glutes are weak. Imagine this. If you can't stand up for long, these are your biggest muscles in your body. If you're not using them, your back has to do all the work. So just use your butt more, people. Whenever I didn't make my bed as a child, my mom would call me a lazy bum.
Yes,
Think about that next
think
time.
about that. Lazy bum. Good. What can we do for our bums then? Strengthening our bums.
So,
Squats.
I mean, Google is this amazing resource that people need to get on there and just type in, how can I strengthen my glutes? Because I could start telling you all the exercises in the world, you'd probably forget in 5 minutes and you probably never do them. But if you commit yourself to having a healthy body, go on Google. I've got loads on my Instagram page. I've got loads in my YouTube channel. Christine, I'm sure you have loads of strengthening stuff on your channel too. Guys, just go and do some research. Like, look after your body. We're so used to spending money and time on the outside, putting on clothes, putting on makeup, doing our hair. But we forget about what's inside really matters as well. And, you know, if you want to have a healthy body, you have to strengthen the muscles that support the joints.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Good. So Canada, someone else is from Canada. Hi, Laura is here.
Wow.
Laura has been coming every week.
Oh, bless her. Well done, Laura. Little dedication there.
Good. So Sunshine at Heart is saying, thanks to Celeste, I lift more. Morris.
Well done, my love.
Tatiana is saying so she's saying she's a chef, I think, never sitting. My job standing and running all day. I
Great.
I love yoga. It's relaxing me after a busy day.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. And listen, I think the message is I'm not saying don't do yoga. I'm saying don't only do yoga. And if you're someone who's on your feet all day long and you need that parasympathetic nervous system to be tuned in a little bit more than your fight or flight, you want to kind of switch the nervous systems that are in charge. Yoga's brilliant for that. There's so many benefits. I guess where I'm coming from is I'm just tired of seeing the same old repeated injuries again and again that are perfectly avoidable. And it's because people are just doing the same stuff.
Yes. And I think it's this one size fits all approach sometimes, isn't it? And for me, at least, whatever I do, and this is my practice or what I do, has completely changed since, over in the last 10 years, I had two children. The years before that, I was quite active, but I was sitting in the office quite a lot. So whatever you do is finding something that's kind of fits or that balances out your lifestyle, isn't it? And what else is going on in your life? If you are a marathon runner, and you're training to run a marathon, your practice would look very different, hopefully, to somebody who is sitting in the office all day long and yeah, needs to get up really in the evening. And as you say, and if you're then thrown into this quite extreme stretches or something like that, if you've been sitting all day, that's kind of when things go a bit wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a real pressure in group classes. This is one of my bugbears with group classes, is because there is a group pressure to meet the demands of the person in charge. So let's say you have a very aggressive teacher who really wants to get very deep back bends, as an example. When you're in that class with all the other people really forcing a back bend, you're like, maybe I should really try and force a back bend as well. As opposed to, we need to educate people that really deep back bends not really healthy for you. That's not how your body evolved. If you look in nature, there's not going to be a dancer's pose touching the head ever.
No,
that's not going to help you survive. So the way the body is organized is what they call the mobility stability continuum. And this continuum is really useful to understand because it helps you realize where you should be putting your mobility focus and where you should be putting your stability focus. And actually, within your spine, you want stability at the neck, you want mobility in the cervical spine, but you want stability in the lumbar spine. Now, the way the little joints have been organized in your spine, they're called facet joints. You guys can look them up, facet, F-A-C-E-T-S. That's hard for my dyslexia. Spelling on the spot, I'm like, The facet joints, the way they orientated means that if you're going to go into deep back bend, it's coming from the lumbar spine. But what do we want? Do we want mobility or stability? We want stability. Now we're forcing these big back bends into our bodies. That's not what your body evolved for. And then when people stand for a long time or walk, they're going to just be here because they've got all their mobility here. When they walk, instead of the glute taking the leg behind, the back does every step. And they write to me, they go, oh, after a long walk, my back aches. You've been doing deep back bends. It's no surprise.
Yes, absolutely. And then obviously with scoliosis, you've got kind of an added dimension to this as well, because you do have obviously the rotation as well. So one part is going further into a back bend. So yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Let me just have a look.
The
Because
body is very complicated.
yes, absolutely. It's not straightforward. Greetings from Austria. Love from Estonia. I've got very international crowd today.
We do. Hi, guys. So sweet.
Good.
I love you.
What is the best posture of sitting? Now, she's saying with scoliosis, but let's keep it general.
Let's be general for today.
Yeah.
So, guys, whether you have scoliosis or not, staying in a single body posture is not healthy. Any static body posture is unhealthy. You're not evolved to be still, because if you were out in nature, you get eaten. Or you don't have enough food. You would run out of supplies. So movement is always king. But let's say you're like, I know a friend, he's an ethical hacker. He hacks into your bank account.
Great.
If there's bad people that could get in, and then he tells people, look, we've got to be careful of this, this, and this. So he's a good guy, but his job is to hack. And he sits down all day long. And I'm like, babe, you're sitting down way too much. Hey, it's not good for you. He's like, you don't understand how my job works. I can't come out because as soon as I go out, I'll lose the code, I'll lose the hack. So he's literally like this, like on his laptop for hours upon hours. He cannot get up. And I'm like, can you do that in standing? He's like, it's not how it works. You don't understand. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. So let's say you're one of those people. You have no choice to sometimes, look, I've got loads of Amazon boxes here. Standing desk. You can make these things up. You can create a solution. But let's say you're like, Sally, I genuinely can't. Well, that's okay. So let's have a think about what is a neutral spine and why is a neutral spine a good thing? Well, a neutral spine is not flat. A flat spine is actually really unhealthy. You need to have some gentle curves in the spine, because imagine these two curves. If I put a heavy load at the top of it, the two curves absorb the load like this. if it was flat, you can imagine there's a lot of pressure going down through that flat structure. Or if it was just one curve, all the pressure would be concentrated here. Or if it was the other way, all the pressure would be concentrated here. So where you are sitting right now, possibly watching this video, if you haven't gotten up yet, maybe some of you are like, okay, I'll get up.
I am desperate.
Okay, let's do it. What you have to think is a neutral spine. You want a little bit of kyphosis in your thoracic spine, and that's useful because some of the serratus anterior muscles love that S curve because the rib cage goes into what we call a bucket handle shape. So serratus kicks in and it's like, I can give your shoulders more stability here. You also have your diaphragm, which lines the rib cage. It also likes a neutral top, your thoracic kyphosis because of the attachment points. It wants those bucket handles of the rib cage to not be too flat and flared out. But of course, your lumbar spine has to balance that curve. You need that gentle lumbar lordosis. Now, if everybody who is sitting with me right now just gives me a little bit of lumbar lordosis, so there's a gentle curve in your lower back, instantly some muscles are going to turn on. You're not thinking of them. You're not like adductors, glutes, TVA. That's impossible. You'll get too tired. But if you just focus on the shape, those muscles are bang on. That's the answer. It's about finding those gentle curves. Now, it's very difficult to sustain a static body position that's good. If you were out in nature and you had all these varied movements that you're experiencing day to day, when you go to sit down, your brain is going to go, you need to save energy because something might come and get you. You need to have energy to run, or you need to maybe go get some more food later, or maybe your baby falls down. You need energy. So save your energy when you're sitting, switch off everything, especially if you're sitting down for a while, you switch off everything. But today, the same evolutionary principle is in our minds. We still have that same evolutionary dialogue inside us going, you maybe are going to need your energy later. So don't use it up now. Chill while you're sitting down, switch off, relax. And this is where sustained body positions are very, very dangerous.
Yes. So get up, move around, and then come back to it. What I always find difficult in sitting is to know where exactly is the neutral spine, because it's very easily done and you kind of go the other way as well, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I sometimes hang out in this kind of arched lower back position.
But so again, remember, if I'm all the way here or if I'm all the way here, I get one load of transfer, right? Which is not healthy. We want the neutral S curve. So just finding your pelvis, if you take your hands onto the pointy hip bones at the front and your pubic bone at the front, and if your hands are perpendicular to the ground, you're probably in a neutral pelvis. If your hands tilt this way, you're posteriorly tilted, your back is going to be rounded. And if your hands go in this way, you're probably flaring out your ribs and hanging in those tight back muscles.
Right.
So you want to try and find a neutral position with your pelvis.
So now, hip bones and pubic bone in one line, kind of.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah.
Now, guys, just a quick one. A neutral spine is not the finish line. It's the starting point. And by that, I mean movement is king. So you need to learn how to move in and out of neutral. The more you do that in a day, the healthier. But we need to know where neutral is first. And most people can't sustain it even for 30 seconds. They get so weak and so tired because neutral is never, ever experienced, ever. And it's the healthiest place to start from because now you can go both ways. But if you're always in a posterior tilt and someone tells you to go into anterior, those muscles are going to be weak getting you there. And obviously vice versa applies.
Yeah.
So learning about neutral is not because neutral is the only way. You have to be like a robot and you have to stay in neutral. No, it's just because neutral spine gives you a great starting point.
Yes, exactly. Great. Good. So Deborah is here as well. Let me just see if I can get through some more of these comments. I have double curve scoliosis in mid-70s, so quite severe scoliosis. I have osteoporosis. Hopping isn't possible. Oh, she was probably referring to my skipping suggestion.
But she can walk. She can walk, and walking will do the same thing. Remember, everything is built up over time. So just, don't be afraid to walk.
Yeah, yeah, and exactly, and just because I do it doesn't mean, that everyone else has to do it. It's just for me, obviously, I also do it because I can do it with my daughter. We can have a little bit of fun together.
So
Um,
cute.
and I feel it suits my body at the moment, even though I have to be careful about my pelvic floor.
Okay, so let's
Sustaining
talk
that.
about that.
Yes, let's
Talk
talk
about the
about it.
pelvic floor. It's not normal to be worried about your pelvic floor. That's a sign that something's not quite functioning well. And there's a few different things that we can do for the pelvic floor which might help. One, actually finding a neutral pelvis, the research is showing, helps to provide an automatic tone to the pelvic floor that is gentle enough to relax when you inhale and intelligent enough to engage as you exhale.
Hmm.
And this is something we have trained out of our bodies because we don't move enough. If you sit in a posterior tilt, it's like the two ends of a hammock. I'll use my yoga leggings to show you. Here's your pelvic floor. As soon as you sit in collapsed spine, this happens to your pelvic floor. And all of the organs inside your pelvic floor start pushing down and stretching it. And then what happens is a sneeze or a cough comes along or a jump because you're skipping, and we haven't got that tone to help the pelvic floor be strong and supported. So what you want to do is find your neutral, and then you want to inhale and relax. You want to teach your body to relax, guys. Relaxation is the opportunity for the muscle to then engage. If you're like this all the time, it's going to get tiring, you're going to fatigue. So the inhale, relax your belly, relax your pelvic floor, do it with me now. And then as you exhale, let's train our brains to just engage 1%. Very gentle. You don't need to go overboard because you're not doing anything now. But if you're going to maybe lift something, as you exhale, maybe a little bit more engagement. Or if you're about to do a really hard yoga position, a little bit more engagement. Just your brain is so intelligent. We've trained this intelligence out a bit, but if you give yourself the opportunity to train it back in, you'll be surprised how quickly those fascial chains start responding, especially when you link it to something that's autonomic, like your breathing.
Yes.
The other thing to be aware of is in yoga, a lot of times we are taught to engage the mula bandha. And this is the pelvic floor.
Hmm.
And guys, this is such terrible advice because if you engaged your fist, imagine I engage my fist for an hour and a half in an Ashtanga practice. They tell me, engage your fist the whole time. Come on, engage. And I engaged my fist for an hour and a half. How exhausted would my hand be at the end of that hour and a half? Would I be able to hold a cup? Now imagine your pelvic floor. You've been engaging your mula bandha for an hour and a half, and then a sneeze comes. How can you withstand those pressure changes? That muscle's fatigued. So guys, we have to remember, I'm just going to close that. Okay. We have to remember that muscles are designed to relax and contract, and they can only be strong if they know how to relax. So with your pelvic floor, guys, it should be synced with your breath, because as the diaphragm contracts, the pelvic floor should relax. And as the diaphragm relaxes, the pelvic floor contracts. They work together. They are two diaphragms, essentially. So that's something to think about. It's really useful because it relates so beautifully to posture. I had someone writing to me the other day saying, I go to the gym all the time. I work my glutes. I'm in huge amounts of pain in my knees and my back. Why, if I'm using my glutes at such a high level, do I have pain? I was like, what's your pelvic floor doing? She was like, so funny you should ask. I've always had problems with my pelvic floor. Listed off this long list of pelvic floor issues. The pelvic floor, guys, is so closely related to the function of your body. And if you can train this, inhale, relax, let it all go. Exhale, engage. Honestly, the difference in your brain and your body is I can't even sell this enough.
Absolutely. And you kind of, when you're younger, you take this for granted. And then I think well, for us at least, when you have children, then you kind of think like, oh, it's all normal to have to have some problems there with your pelvic floor because it needs time to recover. It needs time to heal, obviously. Um, but then obviously a few years after, you've kind of forgotten about it again. So you're
Yeah.
not really looking after it. And then all of a sudden you start having problems. And it's like it kind of needs constant maintenance. And it doesn't, as you say, it's probably, I think my issues are probably more to the tightness, as you say, too
Yeah.
much
Be careful.
engagement. And so I'm really training myself at the moment, as you say, with like breathing exercises and just to kind of to visualize this. But it makes such a big difference to everything. And as you
It
say,
really
posture.
does. Posture, your breathing, the way the diaphragm moves, it strokes the longest nerve in the body called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is responsible for switching you from your fight or flight nervous system into your rest and repair nervous system.
Mm,
So, to train your belly to relax as you inhale, to train your ribs to expand, is not only a fancy breathing thing that we do. It's actually on a very, very deep level, intrinsically tapping into the nervous system. And the quality of life that comes along with that is important, because if your brain is constantly dumping out cortisol and stress hormones to help you function through a day, that's going to have huge repercussions on the way you deal with your husband and your children and your partners and your friends. You're going to be so wound, so tight. So training the diaphragm to relax and getting that parasympathetic switch in the nervous system can actually help your brain go, oh, we don't need all that cortisol. Oh my gosh, let's switch off. That doesn't happen easily if we haven't trained that breathing mechanism.
yes, exactly. So someone is asking, does Celeste have scoliosis?
Oh, bless. No, my loves, I don't. I am very hypermobile, and so that comes with its own set of challenges. But I have to say, biggest respect to people who have to deal with scoliosis each and every day. It is such a journey, and the amount of dedication that it requires to just function at baseline is massive. So, yeah, I really, really do. I have so much respect for the scoliosis community.
Shall we talk? Let's talk about sitting a little bit more, because I think a lot of people are working from home still. I know in the UK, obviously, it's slowly we're getting back to. I don't want to say normal because it's not normal, but a lot more people are going in the office. But I know in other parts of the world, obviously, people are still at home. So, do you have any advice for like setting up your home office? Obviously, you already talked about maybe considering standing sometimes. Is there anything else we can do?
So I would say that if you aren't in an ergonomically friendly chair, grab a towel or a pillow, roll it up like this, and stick it in your lumbar spine like that. And then maybe put on your phone a timer for every half an hour. Have a bunch of Amazon boxes next to your laptop. And when that timer goes off, you stand up, you put your laptop on the Amazon boxes, and you set your timer for 30 minutes again. You work, because it's tiring. You can't be on your feet all day. For some people, they're not used to that.
Yeah.
And you go back to your desk. So you're constantly alternating between the two. Also, I would advise try to, instead of exercising for 1 full hour at the end of the day, break it up. Try and do a little 20-minute session in the morning, 20-minute walk at lunchtime to get some fresh air, stretch out your legs. And then in the evening, if you have another 20 minutes to do a few stretches or a foam rolling session, try and break it up. It's far healthier to do little and often than all in one go.
Yes, no, I love that. I love that. That's great. Good. So, actually, I do, oh, fitness. She does fitness and yoga together. That's great. Good. Let's see. What else have we got? So somebody, Sunshine at Heart, is asking, Celeste, do you know about Dr. Fishman's practice for scoliosis? I don't expect you to.
I don't. I'm sorry, my love. I'm not a scoliosis expert in the slightest. That's why I brought Christine onto my channel recently, so she could educate me.
Yeah, so I just to give you a little bit of background, but basically, he's a medical professional. He's a lecturer, I think, at Columbia University as well in New York. He's a yogi. He comes from a more Iyengar practice, and he has been researching yoga and scoliosis and specific yoga poses for scoliosis
Cool.
for a long time. I mean, again, from a scientific point of view, obviously, and he's been researching the side plank um, and researching the effects on scoliosis and how this can kind of change or reduce even scoliosis curvature. So if you are interested, if anyone is interested in
Mm,
this topic, I have recently done a webinar with him, and you can email me. There should be a link as well in the description where you can find that as well. But
wow.
yeah, it's very very interesting, and I love that. And this is why I kind of started this little back chat, as I call it, on Wednesdays, because
Very clever name, Christine.
because there are so many people that do amazing things, obviously, and Dr. Fishman does his thing, and then Celeste, you do your thing and you do all your research, and obviously, you know, completely different practice as well, but we can all benefit from that inspiration, from the motivation, you telling us to get up and move, and no, just because you have scoliosis doesn't mean you need to be lying in bed. If
Not
anything,
at
the
all,
opposite.
guys. The more you can move, the better. Absolutely. Movement is always at the top. Movement is so vital to the health of your body. In fact, there was a really funny thing. I'm doing this course about neurology. I hope I'm not going to mess it up telling you guys this, but basically, they discovered that one of the things your brain needs to actually function well is movement. And they contrasted that with they researched loads of animals, and they tried to see like what animal is actually still, and how does it work. And they discovered the sea squirt, and the sea squirt has a brain when it's moving. And then what he does is he finds a nice little bit of rock, and he like settles down, and then he eats his own brain,
Ah,
because a brain is very energy expensive,
uh-huh.
and he only needs it to move. Like, movement is the reason your brain is in existence.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite cool.
That
I don't know if that's useful to anybody out there, but
I really worry. I sometimes wonder about this. And again, I only kind of scratched the surface with that one. But since lockdown, I have to say I've never been so exhausted. And like physically, I'm not okay. Yes, I'm teaching yoga from home, obviously, and maybe I have a bit more time for my practice, but that doesn't physically exhaust me just because of the way I practice. I do practice quite a lot of restorative yoga, but just mentally,
yeah.
obviously I've got the children with me around all the time, and just the whole like you worry about basically not being able to plan. It sounds paradox, obviously, but you kind of you worry about what all the things that you cannot do or that you cannot plan, and what's the future going to be, what is it going to be like, and all of this is energy, isn't it? And it just kind
Mm.
of it drains you, and I feel it physically. I mean, for me, it always comes out here, like neck and shoulders, and it's like probably not even having something to do with poor posture during the day, but it's just that whole those connections between the brain and the body. It's just amazing, isn't it?
It really is amazing. I mean, your posture is amazing. I mean, I'm looking at you now. And, if anyone else said that to me, Christine, often what I look for is to see if they have weak, deep neck flexors.
Mm.
But I was looking at you and I was like, that girl, she ain't got that problem at all. Like, you're like, dun, 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 like perfect posture. Like, your head is so stacked over your shoulders. So it really is like, we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders at the moment. And I know that's a little bit airy fairy and maybe metaphorical, but there really is so many unknowns at the moment. And the way the human brain functions is it needs some certainty to actually function as a healthy brain. It loves variety, but it needs to balance that with some certainty. Like, we need to know that we're going to have enough food. That's why we work hard to have enough money in the bank. And we need to have some kind of idea of what our future will bring. Too much uncertainty does bring a lot of psychological issues with it. And we are all in that boat. I think, I don't know if any of your listeners right now want to pop into the chat box and let us know how they've been doing, but it's been quite an emotional roller coaster, to say the least.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So Daisy is saying she's got scoliosis and uneven shoulders. Um, so maybe we can, yeah, you mentioned already the forward head posture,
Yeah.
obviously. And
So guys,
yeah.
your deep neck flexors at the front, and this is unrelated shame to this ladies, we're going to get back to that in a second, my love, just give me one moment. But the deep neck flexors at the front are so underused these days. So people's heads are out here and the upper traps have to do all the work of keeping your head on your body so that your head doesn't just flop down. And so if you haven't got those muscles well attuned, but what's so cool actually about these muscles is they help you find a neutral S-curve. If you get your head to stack over your body, I'm not saying it's 100% muscle contraction. I'm saying it's about 1%. It's a very low, very gentle activation that just radiates down. And then if you try that breathing thing where you inhale and everything relaxes and exhale with very soft engagement, maybe 1% if you want, maybe 0.5%. There's a mental softness and there's almost a clarity that comes into your physical well-being, which is so powerful, I think, for people on every level of their being.
Yes, I think what I'm hearing here is you're saying when we find that neutral, and even though it doesn't mean we're going to have to be in that for a long time, but it becomes effortless, doesn't it? It shouldn't. And in the beginning, it might feel like, oh, I'm thinking about I have to chin in and all of that.
Yeah, because everything's habit. Remember the principle that I taught, the SAID principle, specific adaptation to imposed demand. So you're sitting a lot or whatever body posture a lot, your posture suffers. So you're here. Now someone's coming along and telling you to use very weak muscles to do this. Man, that's going to be so hard. Or let's say you're just a yogi. All you do is yoga and you're pushing with your arms, chaturanga, pushing down. You're using all these push muscles. Now someone is saying to retract. Those are your pull muscles. You're not going to have the muscle tone to withstand that, which is, again, where varied training comes in. The variety of training will get all of those different fascial chains to start working. It also means that something called progressive overload is very powerful. So if I had to put you in a gym and say, whether you like it or not, you and me are going to start training in the gym together every Wednesday and Saturday. So now we go to the gym. Now, of course, when you first go there, lifting 100 kgs is impossible. But if I put 1 kg in your hand, I said, okay, we're going to just work with this 1 kg. Over time, it would get easier. Now, if you did that with good posture, your resting muscle length, or your resting muscle tone is the better word, would be there. It neurologically has formed a habit of where your body should be under load. So now if you have to sit, it's easy. I've got all this muscle tone that I've developed. So, but of course, we've got to build you up there gradually. I can't expect you to keep your head in a good position straight off the bat all day long if you haven't got the muscle strength to withstand that. But if I told you 3 times today, you just do it for 1 minute, that's already getting you started on the right path. The brain is so amazing because the brain will go, this feels so much better. Why don't we do this for 2 minutes 3 times a day?
Yes, yeah.
If you're mindful, you'll see that little changes add up.
Yeah. And once it's almost like once the body has tasted it, it doesn't really want to go back, isn't it? And it's the same actually with the left and right imbalances with scoliosis. You know, once we start slowly adjusting and training the body, that there is a different way. You know, there is a way where it's not compressed on one side, where we can find a little bit of length. But as you say, the muscles, they need to be long, and it doesn't mean they have to just be stretched out. They also have to be strong to kind of sustain this. So, and then, but little by little, you can definitely make those changes, isn't it?
Guys, sometimes tightness is weakness. Muscles sometimes become tight as a neurological response to the weakness that they have, where your brain goes, oh my God, we need support. What if this person falls apart? Become tight. It's not because you're strong. If that muscle was strong and you could do it through range, oh, I can be strong here and here. I'm not going to fall apart. Your body doesn't need to contract that muscle. Your brain is giving you a neurological response because it's worried about you. And listen, guys, I'm really talking very general here. I'm not specifically putting this on scoliosis. I realize there's many factors with scoliosis. I just wanted to say that off the bat. There's so much more to the picture, but it is one part of the puzzle to consider, that when you take a person with scoliosis and you strengthen their body through range, the chances of that person finding neutral is a lot higher than if you just stretch them out. Because stretching isn't changing the neurological map in your brain. You have a little man in your body called the homunculus. I call him a little man. He's actually a little gender neutral person. Sorry, it's really ingrained, the sexist stuff from childhood. But there's this little map in your body, and it's made the shape of you. And whatever you do more of, it's going to get thickened neurological nets in that area. And the little map of this person has really big lips, because obviously we need lots of dexterity in our mouth, really big hands, really big feet. And so imagine if we know, oh, my left side, hasn't got a lot of that neurological map, and we start building that neurological map. It's going to come. It is going to come. It takes a lot of dedication, but it does come.
Yes. I don't know if you know the work of Thomas Hanna, and he talks about sensory motor amnesia. So basically parts of the body that are forgotten, kind of the lost world.
Yes, I know this muscle amnesia. Yes.
And there's probably lots of different names for it, but definitely, and those of you who have got especially lumbar scoliosis, I find there might be this one side that feels like almost there isn't anything there. It feels like it's numb, or and if you get into yoga, you become more aware of these things, and you feel like, oh, everything is on my right side, but on my left side, or the other way around, obviously, I can't feel anything. And this is exactly what we're talking about, isn't it? And it's kind of getting into those areas, and it's not straightforward. Obviously, it's not as straightforward as just saying just move that area. It's a little bit more to that. But as you say, if you are strengthening, you've got a much better chance of getting into it rather than just
I think
stretching it out.
where people lose courage is, for example, I'll use you as an example. You are running a business, you have 2 children that are not at home, and you've got your own body to manage, and you have a partner. Now, that's a lot on your plate. And that doesn't go for cleaning and cooking and washing and helping the kids with their homework. I mean, there's so much to life. Now, you are probably the last person on the list, but your body demands a lot of attention. Now, not only do you have to strengthen, you have to know what to strengthen, where to strengthen, how to strengthen. People give up. And I get it. It's because it's so hard. I mean, I'm hypermobile and it's hard for me, but imagine if you had scoliosis and you had all these variables that you have to consider. It's so difficult. And so sometimes the mountain looks so big, you don't want to take a single step to try and cross it. But all I can say is every little tiny thing that you do, don't underestimate how quickly it'll get you up there. Don't underestimate the little things that you do. If it's like, I was so busy today, I had no time. I have 5 minutes at the end of my day before bed. Don't underestimate those 5 minutes. Don't underestimate when you're with your kids playing, being like, oh yeah, good posture. Need to remember my breathing, relax that in. Like those little changes that you weave into your lifestyle, they will add up.
Absolutely. I love that. Good. Let's see. The body wants to heal, but it needs help to do so. Yes. So Tim is saying, oh, no, it's not Tim. It's Liz. Liz hijacked Tim's YouTube account, I think. Where has it gone? Oh, where's it? Oh, here. Sorry, I'm late. Can you suggest specific exercises to ease the tightness in my fascia under collarbones?
Under the collarbones? You mean a stretch for your pecs? Pec stretch?
Yes. I guess this is also, if you have your shoulders, it might, I don't know if that's what you're talking about, Liz, but somebody also said about uneven shoulders, obviously, if they're rolling
Oh, yes,
forwards,
we need to get back to them. Yeah, guys, look, the
opening that
shoulders,
part.
you know, listen, I could talk for 3 hours about the shoulders, and shameless plug here, but guys, I put so much work into it. There is a 3-hour shoulder anatomy workshop, which is accessible for anyone, even if you're not a yoga teacher. There's so much knowledge in there on my website, celestepereira.com. And guys, I mean, there's so much to the shoulder. The lady who's talking about under the collarbones, these are your pectorals. Yes, you can. There's a lot of stuff in the workshop. I teach people how to self-massage it, how to stretch it. That's like a whole minefield on its own. But the shoulder positioning, it's the most complex joint in the body.
Mm-hmm.
I would take all your afternoon up, and we are probably already running out of time if you started getting into the shoulders. So I know that sounds like I'm trying to sell, and it sounds like a plug, but
No,
please,
please do. We need
I
it.
really, honestly, the knowledge in there, you will not imagine the amount of work that has gone into that 3-hour lecture / practice that I've put on my website. And the knowledge that I've dumped into that workshop is to give people a much clearer understanding of what is going on under their skin. So now when they move their arm, they're like, oh, I know what's happening. I know why my shoulder is like this, and I understand why it's coming forward, and I get why I'm getting tight traps. And so you put it together, you know. I know how much work has gone into it, and I know how much value people have gotten from it. So I think that could be a good starting point for your followers.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. And as you say, it's such a complex area of the body, and sometimes it's not so much about I'm really moving away from that
Just stretching.
just
Yeah, because
stretching. Yes.
people are like, oh, I'm tight here, so I need to stretch. You do, but you also need to use your pull muscles in your
Yeah.
back body, and you need to sort out your posture. So, you know, like it's only giving such a generalized thing for someone who probably needs a lot more information to help their body actually function as an entire unit more healthily.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Let me just go back. So Liz, whose question this was, saying, thank you. PT has ignored this. Their focus is on the core exercises, which are also important, aren't they? Strengthening.
Yes, but there's some new research that I'd love to elaborate on the core as well to your listeners, because I feel like up until now, when people talk about the core, and maybe Liz, could you just jump in and tell us what kind of core exercises? Because a lot of times when people talk about the core, they're referring to their superficial abdominal muscles. This is not your core. These are movers. They're a moving superficial muscle. They don't have endurance fibers in those muscles. They're muscles that are meant to give you a short, sharp, quick response whenever you need to, from your back, sit up quick.
Mm-hmm.
Your real core is your diaphragm, your pelvic floor, and your transverse abdominis. It forms a cylinder around your body. And that core cylinder is highly intelligent, and it's a collection of muscles that work in sync with each other. Now, what's happening is we're like, engage your core, engage your core. Now the cylinder doesn't know what's going on. Well, hang on, we're an orchestra. We move together. We've got our own thing going on. But now one of us in the orchestra is just banging on the drum. I'm just banging on my drum. So that muscle's like, okay, I'm engaging because that's what you want. And then the diaphragm and the pelvic floor are like, we don't know what to do anymore. So you're losing this intrinsic intelligence when you're just focusing on the core. Guys, a better thing to do is what I'm going to keep coming back to. Breathe in, relax. Let your belly go. Let your pelvic floor go. Let the rib cage expand. Exhale, 1% engagement. That trains your core to intelligently engage. Now, let's say you're like, Celeste, I've had 3 kids. I sit down all the time because I'm doing an executive's job. That core with that out breath, I can't connect to it. A breathing thing that you can do to help your deep core layers engage is inhale through your nose and relax. And then breathing out of pursed lips. Because that changes the pressure inside your body. And that pressure change sends a message to the pelvic floor, TVA, diaphragm, and it automatically gets that cylinder to turn on. Now, in the beginning, when you start utilizing this strategy, it's very irritating because it's slow. You'll, for example, be like, okay, I need to inhale, do nothing. Exhale with that out breath, do the action of yoga pose, lifting, Pilates, whatever. So in the beginning, it's irritating, but eventually you start getting quite good at it, where you can just keep the rhythm of your breath. You still got the pursed lips on the out breath. You just keep that rhythm, and you just move, you walk, you play with your kids, but you've got that. Sometimes you do it 5 minutes, sometimes you do it an hour, whatever you can manage, okay? Remember, little adds up quick. But then when you get good at that, you can just do it in and out of your nose. Once that cylinder is working, you can just use it all the time. So that's something I learned from a really amazing physio. You guys need to check her out. Her name is Julie Wiebe, Wiebe, Julie Wiebe. I interviewed her as well. What a woman.
Oh, yes, I
Like,
saw your interview with her. That was amazing, actually. Yeah, it's really good.
She's cool. And she's like, just get away from doing all these ab exercises. Get away from over stressing your pelvic floor. Get away from over gripping your core. Learn how to relax these muscles. They'll engage when they're needed. These muscles are so intelligent. They know just before you're going to sneeze or cough or laugh, engage so that you don't displace your organs, so that you don't pop out a lumbar disc. They're so beyond what you could ever imagine. You don't need to tell these muscles to engage. And also, you shouldn't be. When we're lifting up something heavy, they should go, oh, I'm needed. You shouldn't be like, I need to engage my core. I need to squeeze. That's not normal life.
No.
You can't do that every second of every day.
Yeah. So Caroline is saying the shoulder workshop was incredible. I highly recommend it.
Thank you, Caroline. It really means a lot to me.
Have you got another one for the core, for pelvic floor or anything like that?
I actually can recommend someone else is going to do one. My friend, you guys can write this down. I did her course. It's 4 hours. She's running one in mid-July on a Sunday, I think. Her name is Sarah Parker Physio on Instagram, and she's actually going to be doing a core workshop. It's coming up mid-July. Guys, I can't recommend this enough. I learned so much about everything that I'm preaching to you guys about. Honestly, it's not my knowledge, it's her knowledge. Julie Wiebe is actually her teacher as well. So, these physios work with people with pelvic floor issues, diastasis, pregnant people, post-pregnancy people, every single day, people that have prolapses, and the knowledge, I can't scratch the surface of what these women can do. So my next workshop is going to be on this coming Sunday. It's about the hips. And it's going to be about the hips and the pelvis. And we're going to do a lot of the similar stuff I'm chatting to you guys about, talking about how our bodies develop through nature and exactly how you can weave that into your daily life so that, you can keep the health of that part of your body.
Great. And that's via Zoom, is it? Is it a live?
Yeah, it's a live class via Zoom. And if you go on my Instagram, you can sign up to it.
Yes. Good. Let's see who just wrapping up here. I love Christine's bridge sequence. Just trying to remember which one that is. I've got so many. Good.
I thought it was something behind you. Maybe it was the fridge that was behind you. But I was like, I'm sure it's not a fridge that's behind her.
No, bridge. She's saying.
Bridge.
Bridge, not fridge. Open the fridge, close the fridge. Good. Lovely. So PT, just last one. PT wants me to pull tailbone under. I don't want to leave this one because
no, let's please cover this.
Let's cover this one quickly. I know I've taken up a lot of your time, Celeste. I'm really
Not
grateful.
At all. As you can see, I get very passionate. I probably like screaming and shouting. It's the Latin blood in me, guys. I can never say anything with like a normal tone. When people are like, yes, well, it's not possible for me. I'm very extra. So thank you for bearing with all the like extra energy. But this one I get so passionate about as well because, guys, everybody's different. Now you have someone coming to you that already has a posterior tilt on their pelvis. Now in yoga classes, people are saying, tuck your tailbone. This person's already sitting with a tucked tailbone for 8 hours a day in a chair. Then they're walking down the street to get to yoga, the tucked tailbone. And then on the mat, you're telling them to tuck their tailbone. It's not appropriate. However, what if someone comes to me hyperlordotic? Maybe this is the person who's writing you. Hyperlordosis here. Yeah. Hypertonicity in the lower back, weak glutes, tight hip flexors. Maybe the PT is seeing that the person isn't moving through neutral and saying, can you tuck your tailbone a little bit just to get that neutral? But then people don't have sensitivity in their bodies anymore. They don't know how to disassociate. So here they are. They're in their hyperlordotic pit. PT says, tuck your tailbone. You see how I've moved my whole spine?
Mm.
Now remember, the spine like this, all the pressure goes here. The spine like this, all the pressure goes here. We want our two curves. So yes, maybe for some people a little gentle tuck is good. For other people, they need to stick their butt out. Again, hands, hip bones, fingers on the pubic bone. If my hands go this way, I'm anterior. If my hands go this way, I'm posterior. I need my hands to be level to the ground. This is a nice little hack that you guys can use to figure out if you're in neutral.
Mm. And I found it really helpful. So for ages, I thought I had more a hyperlordosis, but actually, I think now it's probably that it's more in like the T12 area that I'm kind of overarching. But actually, my pelvis could probably do with a little bit of more of a posterior.
You need to bring your ribs in.
Yes, so I think about more of the rib cage in and untucking my tailbone at the same time.
Yeah.
And that makes such a big difference. If I untuck my tailbone, I just naturally open across this part, but without kind of overarching in the mid back. And then I think about lifting up. That has also been really, really really helpful. That rather than sucking in, it's a lift up. It's lengthening.
Yeah, guys, you don't want to think. You shouldn't be thinking of your muscles contracting because you can't. It's not sustainable. You need to be thinking of your shape of your body and just letting everything else happen. If I did tell you to contract a muscle day to day, like let's say you're very weak in your glute med, which is a muscle in your butt, and your knee, I'll stand on the chair to show you guys, and your knees were collapsing inwards like this. And I told you, engage your glute med to get your knees to point forwards. Even in that instance, you know, we're going to be doing a lot of progressive overload, using stretchy bands, using weights, getting you strong with reps and increased resistance so that muscle always knows, oh, I'm needed. That leg is not too heavy for me. I can move him straight over your toes. But, you know, sometimes the neurological pattern isn't there. So now we have to train your brain to, I know your muscle's strong, but hey, can you kick it in when it's needed, when I'm walking up the stairs? So then you have to get that muscle to engage. Even then, I tell people, just 1%, the body will probably take it up if it needs it up, like maybe you're carrying shopping bags up the stairs. You take it down if you're not carrying anything. So it's the right levels that your brain will take care of, but you've obviously got to get the right muscle action to help your joints be supported.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Good. Tatiana saying, thank you for everything. Good. And she's saying, please check Hannah Fitzgerald. Have you heard of Hannah Fitzgerald?
That sounds familiar. Gosh, there's so much in my head at the moment because I'm preparing for this hips workshop.
Gonna write it down.
My brain is like, Hannah Fitzgerald, we'll definitely look that up.
Yeah, we'll look that up and let us know what her speciality is. But I'm going to say thank you so much, Celeste. So let me see. I did write down your here's your Instagram. So if anyone wants to follow Celeste on Instagram, you've got it here. And I'll put your website and the shoulder workshop and the hips one, isn't it? Hip is this weekend in the description. And yes, please check out her work. I think you're amazing. Thank you for everything. I think
you're amazing too. Honestly, I can't tell you how grateful I am for this experience. And thank you to everyone who tuned in, because I know it's a long time that you were with us. So really appreciate you guys. It was a long old interview.
All right. Thank you so much, Celeste.
Bye, my love. Take care.
Bye.